I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
Homeschooling. Well, a lot of people actually had their experience homeschooling when COVID hit and public schools had to shut down. And it was a challenge because many parents never really appreciated what teachers have to go through for a good 6, 7, 8 hours out of the day. Many parents never understood the challenge to have a classroom full of hyperactive children, having to constantly reprimand them, tell them to sit down, listen, stop this, stop that. And so many parents being given the challenge of having to supervise their children, trying to learn remotely with a computer screen and getting distracted, they really came to understand and appreciate the challenge of teaching. But at the same time, there are a number of parents who have been homeschooling for a long time out of preference because they really don't like the curriculum in our public school system. And they really didn't feel that their child would be safe, especially in an era where there's a lot of bullying going on. Sometimes teachers are oblivious. Sometimes the environment is not safe, or parents just may feel like what's being taught is too irrelevant. So there have been a lot of homeschooling programs developing online. And many parents are beginning to consider perhaps homeschooling is a better alternative to the public school system. I mean, why keep being angry over what's not being taught at school when you can just teach it yourself? So today, sisters, we're going to be talking to an educator, and she's got a wide range of experience. She was a homeschooling mom, but she's also a teacher. She has taught elementary school and she's taught college, and she teaches teachers some of the basics of things you need to know as an educator, everything from classroom management to curriculum planning. And these are things that if you're considering homeschooling, you may want to listen in and try it yourself and maybe set up classroom at home. But what about it, sisters? Had you ever thought about teaching your child at home? And do you think homeschooling is possibly a better alternative to public school education?
Well,
Well, I have to admit that I admire any parent who is brave enough, strong enough, and smart enough to homeschool their children and have their children listened and obey them all day long. Because I just find that daunting in some measure. But in the times that we have, a lot of parents choose homeschooling because they feel that they can better control the environment, control what kind of things their children are learning, and be in tune to how their children learn. Some children are visual learners, some children are on hands learners. A parent who is astute and aware of their child's limitations can actually teach to that. What do you think, Cheryl?
well, it's interesting that you say that because, what the one thing that I found out during COVID is that once people were home with their kids, they would realize that teachers should be, multimillionaires because the fact that they had problems with their own kids and realizing that these teachers were having to deal with their kids and 20 to 30 other ones. But it's funny because they also have a short memory because as soon as the schools opened, people forgot about how hard teachers have it, and they were just glad to get their own kids out of their house. And then teachers were starting to feel not appreciated all over again. One thing that I had read, and I'd read several stories about this, is that homeschooling had changed for Black children because when they were in the environment of home and the parents were able to hear what was going on in the classroom, they realized that there was a lot more racism and the way the teachers taught and talked to their kids. And they started seeing, maybe this isn't an emotionally safe environment for our children. And so a lot of Black parents have started also with all the whitewashing, um, pun intended, of the way history is taught, that we're not being told things and taught things that are part of our history. We're relegated to Black History Month, where we talk about Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, and Dr. Martin Luther King, and we're not taught about the Seneca Falls neighborhood that was bulldozed for Central Park, or the Tulsa Massacre, or some of the other things that have happened in our history, or even lynching. You have one paragraph of, yeah, there were people who were enslaved, and Lincoln freed them, and we're all happy now. So, homeschooling can enhance what needs to be taught. I probably couldn't do it because, frankly, I don't know if I had the patience. And there is more to school than just what's being taught. There is also the social aspect, and children do need other children, and they need other children, and they need to learn from other children that way. But as far and there are people who formed pods where there were small groups of kids that they taught at home. And so that's also an option. Uh, when Sarah was young, there was a woman that we met when she had been signed to a modeling contract, but she actually didn't do a whole lot of modeling because they would call and want her there during a school day, during the school time. And I said, well, we can't do that. But there was a woman there who says, well, I've just decided to homeschool my kids so that they'll be available anytime that they're called. So it's interesting what people's priorities are. And not that that's not a bad priority, because, the kids were making money and that's fine. But I wanted the social aspect, as well as the uh, the school environment. But as long as people are not teaching just whatever they want to learn, or their kid is sitting in front of the TV all day, and that sometimes people do that. There are people who also have done this homeschooling thing where the kids will learn whatever they feel like learning. And if they don't feel like learning that day, they don't do anything. So, you know, you have to be as disciplined as a teacher. You have to set
Yeah.
those times, and you can't just say, oh, I don't feel like it today. You know, they still, at the end of the day, they're still going to have to either test in when they go into high school or into college or something, but the proof will be in the pudding then. But if you can do it and it's better for your kid, and you know your kid isn't going to get involved in bullying or school shooting or something like that, hey, go for it. If you're up for it, you could, go ahead and do it. I'm not up for it though.
Yeah. Well, I really had considered homeschooling Zakia. As a matter of fact, I was in a panic when she was 2 going on 3. And, of course, Barbara, I brought her over to your house when she was a toddler. But when she started, when she turned 3, I was thinking, okay, I need to think of a preschool to get her in. But I was not seeing any school, not any public school or any other kind of school that I felt safe. I felt comfortable having her. And then, like you mentioned, Cheryl, some of the things that you want your child to understand culturally, you want them to get an education that is appropriate. You want them to be in an environment where they feel welcomed. And so I was really grateful to discover a, a group of people who had put together an educational institution, New Concept Development Center by Haki and Safishi Matabuti, who had been, long time, cultural activists and founders of Third World Press. And they had a preschool, and they eventually evolved into an elementary school, Betty Shabazz International Charter School. And I am so grateful for the Betty Shabazz experience for Zakia, because it was kind of a family atmosphere, and it answered all my cultural needs. And I saw the importance of having an education that you can trust, because the way some of the things, and we've talked about this before, the whole cultural atmosphere, they call all the students call the teachers mama and baba, kind of like in the African tradition. So you're more like a mother and a father, and you have a different relationship. But I had really considered homeschooling Zakia because I was concerned about a lot of those things that you mentioned. How is our history going to be taught? How are we going to handle some of the issues of the day? So we've got with us today a guest who is an amazing educator. I've seen her in the classroom, and I mean, this sister knows how to handle a class of 30 students and not raise her voice. So I know her skills. Just so happens she was one of those who was an educator at the Betty Shabazz International Charter Schools, and now she's educating college students, and she's teaching teachers some very basic skills. But she also homeschooled her children for a period of time. And so she has a perspective on some of the pros and cons of educating your children at home. And sometimes, if you have the skills, it really could be a better alternative. So I want to welcome to our show Three Black Moms, my dear sister, Sharon Richard. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello. It's nice to meet
Oh,
you.
hello, everyone. How are you all? It's
Very
a
well.
pleasure to
Very
be a part of this forum.
Yeah.
And I'm using my phone, so hopefully everything will work out. Couldn't pull it up on the laptop. But yes, I did homeschool my children for 4 years. When I had my very first child, that's when I started. So she was born, and then I had a 2-year-old, and also had a third grader and a fourth grader. So I have 4 children. So it was an amazing experience. They even shared with me that they enjoyed it. It's in their adulthood, they're in their 20s and 30s as we speak. And they felt as though they really benefited from that one-on-one, very small, orientated education. So it was worth it. And also, we had 2 additional individuals, another 2-year-old and another third grader that joined us. So yeah, homeschooling, I believed in it. I didn't find, as Mama indicated, I couldn't find a school that was good enough for my children. I guess you can say that. So I said I'll do it myself. So yes, I did, and I
So,
felt
what was your
really good about
main reason for wanting to homeschool your kids? What was the motivating force?
I think
Was
your
it
finger
just
might
I
be
didn't
on
like
the,
school?
I think your finger might be on the camera lens a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Okay. What motivated me is that I was an educator. Of course, I was a teacher. This was before I actually attended Betty Shabazz, and I knew the crucial and important aspects of education. So when I went to search, I lived in Hyde Park, and I searched for schools that were great enough and really educated children socially, culturally, and academically. It was a challenge to find that. So with me having my degree in master's in education, I decided on my own. And in terms of social, we joined swim clubs. We were part of an artistic program. The children got a chance to really become involved. But that was the reason. I wanted to make sure that they received what they needed in terms of education.
How many hours a day were you with your kids teaching, and how did you separate that from, okay, school's over, playtime, now you can be yourselves, or how did that work?
Yeah. Basically, because I was an educator, I definitely had lesson plans. I definitely had a schedule. We had a time period where we would include all the subjects as regular curriculums at schools. So we would start in the morning, and we would have our breakfast. My son would cook, and then the other students came in, and we started our lessons from social studies, from math to language and things of that sort. It was really great because we were able to infuse a lot of art. My children were very artistic. So we had a tap dancer, and I miss all of them were ballet dancers from other other programs. So we would always have different plays, and they would create that. But the day was a full day, Monday through Friday. We would work, and we would also have our extra curriculum. We would go to ceramics or to swimming and things of that sort. So it was pretty structured. Some of the other homeschool parents did theirs a little more relaxed, where they would just go outside and walk around, and they would discover. We did that too, but I did have a curriculum and a plan, and they got grades and things of that sort. So it was more like a little mini school.
So now, did you set up your classroom like a classroom, like with desks and chairs and everybody in a row and that kind of thing, or was it a little more relaxed in terms of the atmosphere of the classroom itself?
Yeah, so it really was. I had, of course, I had the newborn baby. I had some 2 year olds, so we had a little section. I had a lot of manipulatives in it, so it looked like a mini school. There were desks and chairs that they would sit in. The older children, and they would do their work there. So it was again pretty structured, similar to a regular classroom setting.
You have a blackboard and all that that you wrote on, and they, had to copy stuff off and everything. Of course, I don't think
Yeah,
they have blackboards
we,
anymore, but
we had boards. Yeah, we created that. We had, yeah, we definitely had things that we could write on, or we had a lot of, the alphabets on the wall and things of that sort. Yeah, so it was they had books that they had to study from.
hmm.
So yeah.
What was your biggest challenge?
Um, the biggest challenge for those 2 year olds, we know how 2 year olds are.
Yes.
Sometimes they may need a little bit more attention. And then I had a new baby that was nursing. But what was great about it is that I had the older children, and they would tend to different things that may happen in between. But once the structure was set, it was pretty smooth sailing, because sometimes we would go outside. It wouldn't be just we're in the house, so we would move around a little bit. But because of the age span, it made it a little easier. But yeah, nursing a baby, teaching all the children, the first year I guess was a little challenging. But as the years progressed, it became pretty normal. Everybody knew what we had to do, and we did that.
Wow. So it was like Monday through Friday. That's the routine. What what were the hours? 9 to 3, 9 to 2.
So it was about 9 to 3, basically trying to make sure it's fitting in with the hours that's required in the regular school setting.
Did,
Yeah.
did you ring a school bell or anything like okay, time?
Oh, well, we paced it. So there's so many minutes for this, so many minutes for that. With the children understanding what was expected, they pretty much kept up with that. If not, I had to do some reminders. Yeah.
Now I can hear people going, yeah, well, it was easy for her. She was already a teacher, so she knew how to organize this. But what do? I'm a mother. I know nothing, and my children are running around.
Mhm.
I'm telling them sit down and shut up and listen, and they 5 minutes are up and running around again. How do I make them behave? How do I make them sit and listen? So that's what a lot of
You know,
people.
I totally understand. I totally understand. And I feel as though teaching isn't for everyone. And one thing, it really isn't. Some people are chosen to do that. And even I listen to my daughter now who has a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and it's challenging. She's a cheerleader and she is not listening to her mommy at all, but listening to everyone else. So there may be, there's just, it's really great is at homeschool when this was years ago, they had a homeschool community. So a lot of times we would work together. So if there was, I would suggest for those who may have just challenges really reaching the children, is to combine with another group. And that group, you all can, if they're age compatible, a lot of times ages, we look at that, then they could probably say, okay, come on, maybe we have math together as a group, but maybe they're, the child will be able to be a bit more attentive. That's a suggestion. Yeah.
Mm.
What did you do for recess?
Yeah.
Say that again.
What did you do for recess?
Do for recess? And did you have nap time?
That's a good one.
Oh yeah, the babies definitely did take their naps. Recess, we were right. It was great because we could play games. We could go in the backyard and we could do different things out there. We had bikes and we would ride bikes, and a lot of times, if there were breaks that were needed, we had my son. He was the only boy, so he had his friend there. Go out and play a little football, little basketball, and things of that sort. So the physical development was definitely something that we do. And then we would, like I said, have the extracurricular activities, which is swimming and ceramics, and we would just go to the park or things of that sort. So that we did have to take a break, and we did incorporate that into our structure.
So it's kind of like, because your children were different ages, it was kind of like they used to have the one-room schoolhouse in the old days where all the grades were in one classroom. So how do you, and I guess that's probably one of the challenges, figuring out how you're going to,
She lost her connection. She'll be back.
She'll be back. But that's one of the things that I'd be looking at, is how you go about differentiating who to teach what when, because everybody's on different levels. You got the ones that may be just learning their ABCs, and then you got the others that are just they're on another level. So the question is, how do you go about teaching everybody in that same space and making sure everybody gets their lesson without the person who maybe is older getting bored when you got to do elementary stuff for the younger students? How do you coordinate that?
Yeah, so it was definitely differentiated instruction, and that's what that's called. Everyone basically, where they were tested or where I evaluated them, that's where we taught them. So that there was always that challenge, because when they complete the work, I can see exactly where they are, and I would give them assignments. So I guess it's sort of, if you think about it, is very similar to like online teaching and things of that sort, where you give the assignments, you give some assistance, and you guide them through their learning process. And they are at their level. If they need to be challenged a little bit more, I will take them there. So like even those 2-year-olds, we'll be cutting and pasting and doing small motor skills, just developing that. So it's important, even now as an educator, to make sure everyone is taught at their particular level. So that's something that
I was going to say, it sounds a little bit like a Montessori kind of training, where it's almost like it's a little bit more individualized, which helps, for it. So because can have 2-year-olds and they could be at vastly different places as far as fine and small motor skills and attention and everything else. So it's nice that you can do that. Now, what I was going to ask you is, because over the last 2+ going on 3 years of the pandemic, a lot of the school systems have been worrying about the kids being so far behind because they got lost when parents didn't know what they were doing. What would you recommend parents do to catch them up, or is that just an arbitrary measure that we're taking as far as what they should be learning?
Yeah. You mentioned Montessori. Actually, my first two children well, my first two children did go to Montessori, and Montessori is yeah, definitely independent. And there are some assistants that the teacher or the guiding the children's individual lesson, right, through the guidance, through the specific tools that they use for Montessori. So in teaching, I used a combination of so many different programs based on the needs of the children. So yeah, Montessori, building the towers and things of that sort, for sure. Definitely, these children have lost a great deal. And I'm a trainer. I'm a trainer in classroom management and also in reading and literacy. So as we speak, I'm actually working with a school that want to fill those basically the gaps in terms of reading. And my program just deals with accuracy and fluency. A lot of things, and I've noticed, and why the scores are so, my research has shown the scores are low because we have these third graders and fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth graders who are reading on the second grade level. So those are those gaps. Of course, the COVID took it even further because there was just getting used to the Zooms and things of that sort took a lot, and the attentiveness of it all did tend to increase the learning of the children. So yeah, there's some large gaps, and again, I'm promoting and going into schools to assist with that. I'm retired. I'm a professor as well. But my goal is to serve our children. They're very intelligent. Our African children are highly intelligent, they're geniuses. So it's just a matter of catching up. How do you catch up?
I'm still
First,
here.
we have to, yeah,
Have you heard of
you
the
have to.
urban intellectuals? They are a group that work toward educating young African American children and bringing them up to speed in all areas of education. Urban
I have never
intellectuals.
heard of that.
Yeah, urban intellectuals. They have
Urban.
another one, I think it's
I think they
called
do. They have something on
Raising Black
YouTube, don't they?
Children. They have an online organization, and then I'm trying to remember exactly what state they broadcast their services out of, but I've
Mhm.
actually been following them for a while, and they have a
Oh,
lot of educational avenues. In fact, they are sponsoring a trip to Africa, to several different African countries that they are promoting to help kids have exposure to other cultures outside of American Black culture.
Mm,
what's the name again? Urban. What is it called?
Urban intellectual.
Urban
intellectuals.
intellectual.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's awesome. We need a whole lot of people. It's just, I think it's just not one program. It's a constant and consistency of research-based, proven to work programs. There's a lot of things that's happening out there in my over 30 years of education that is basically, I think this may work, let's try it. Or let's try this because this is new, let's try that. So and I feel as though it's like a science experiment and you're trying to don't work, let's try something else. But I love research-based and programs that I've already implemented and I've seen a difference. We actually have a remote reading program where we're teaching the children third through sixth grade, third through high school, virtually using a research-based program, and we've seen the progress of them all. So yeah, that urban intellect, that's great. That's a wonderful. I will research that a little further as well. Building culture is important. We have a STEM program as well: science, technology, engineering, math, art, and African studies that we infuse in the summer for children. So we need a lot of hands-on to move them where they need to be.
We got to take
Yeah.
a quick break. But when we come back, I want to ask a bit about how important it is to make sure our children are getting the right cultural uh, atmosphere. One of the difficulties that parents have who might be sending their children, say, to a school that's not diverse and of another culture, predominantly white, in other words, some of the things that parents experienced was a lot of feelings of isolation, maybe teachers not appreciating their child's intellectual capacity, having their child stereotyped, and a lot of other negative experiences that it made a lot of parents feel like the school environment was not, it was not encouraging, it was not friendly. And so some of those parents saw that their children flourished better in a homeschool environment where they could get more nurturing. And so I want to get your opinion on that. And then also, what was it like for your children transitioning to school after they'd been homeschooled? What were some of the challenges in making that transition? So we'll be right back after this quick break. And of course, if you are listening on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to write in your comments and we'll share them with our viewing audience. And we'll be right back after this quick break. So stay with us. The Female Solution Global Radio TV Show invites you to an invigorating conversation with our team of hosts Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Start your week with Monday Morning Mindfulness with Zelda Speaks. Tuesdays, Self-Cell Care with Jody Susan. Wednesdays, Repairing Broken Families with Naima Latif and co-host Kareem Hamid. Thursdays, Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green. And Fridays, Health and Wellbeing with Beata. Saturdays, tune in 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time. First Saturday, Success Strategies with Jana. Second Saturday, Wendy Williams Esquire on relationships. Third Saturday, Move Around with Deborah. And fourth Saturday, Wisdom with Mama D. Join us Sundays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time for Soul Purpose Healing with Beata. Call in and comment 515-605-9325. Press 1 to speak to the host and be a part of the solution. And we are back. And of course, if you are joining us, you're just joining us, we are discussing the issue of homeschooling. Is it a better alternative to public school education? And are you considering homeschooling based on the challenges that we're facing with COVID and school violence and other issues that might make you feel that your home is safer than the school, than the classroom, than the public arena? What do you think? Feel free to write in your comments and share them. And our guest today is Sharon Richard, who is a longtime educator. What was it, 30 years? You said 40 years, 50 years, 30 years in education, and a wide range of education in terms of all the way from homeschooling as an educator and a mother, and teaching in the classroom in elementary school, and now, of course, teaching in higher education in the college arena. So this is definitely a person who has the kind of in-depth knowledge to perhaps give some advice to those who are considering homeschooling. But the question I have, of course, and I mentioned earlier, I was really considering homeschooling my child because I was concerned about a lot of things I didn't like as in the public school experience. I mean, the daily fight, the bullying, the teachers that are oblivious, all that. And I didn't want my child to experience the hostility of the public school environment that I went to. So I was trying to find a place where I felt she was safe. And at one point I had considered, well, I'll just teach her at home. But how important is it culturally for a lot of our children who might be living in hostile environments and just, not having teachers that are sensitive to them, their culture, their background, whatever the case may be?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's open. So I believe culture is essential. It is essential because it builds that self pride. And I think before you even begin to educate the children, you need to let them know who they are, how important they are, and how essential they are here on this earth. So, knowing that you are from Africa, where the kings and royal beings were, and all the wonderful intellects that were there, that's in your bloodline, that will empower those the children to feel good and feel as though they can accomplish anything. So I definitely believe in knowing self. that's
Yeah.
that's
Even the
that's
books
number
that
one.
yes, and even the books that you can choose to use in your classroom when it's in your home. You can teach things. Now, I remember your children were very advanced because they had been homeschooled. And most homeschool children, when their parents do have skills like you have, they're much more advanced than their actual grade. So even though we're given these standards of what children are supposed to learn at certain grade levels, most homeschool children are way beyond. I mean, they're like on high school level at fifth grade. So what was
Yeah.
that transition like for your children going from the maybe one-on-one attention environment in the homeschool to putting them in a classroom with many children, 15, 20, 30 children? Was it a social adjustment? Was it a emotional adjustment? How did they handle that?
Mhm. Well, my children, well, what happened? The reason why I really decided to stop homeschooling is that my son didn't want to graduate in the hallway for eighth grade.
Oh.
The
Yeah.
hallway for home. So he wanted to have a official graduation. So he was in eighth grade when they moved from being homeschooled, and my oldest daughter was in sixth grade, and my other children were in kindergarten and first. So the transition for him was absolutely wonderful because, again, we did a lot of socializing. We were part of a dance school ever since they were three. They were participating and traveling and doing different type of exchange programs. And my little ones, they did go to a particular private school, and I worked real close. And then after that, I guess I had the benefit of teaching where they went to school at Betty Shabazz. So they started at kindergarten. All my other three daughters did uh, were very successful. As an educator, that's always a question. We have these homeschool children in our classrooms. They're not socialized. What can we do? In my opinion, educators should be diverse to deal with all type of children. Period. If there are some children who have been in school, they may not, have social, um, you know, etiquette, I guess you can call it. But as an educator, we had to figure out how to make things work. I enjoyed having homeschool children come to my class because I can sort of develop that skill, the social emotional pieces, because they are attentive and they seem to be not all, but they seem to be really eager to learn. So there's a lot of different aspects in terms of how children develop. So it's always that concept, oh, the homeschool children are one on one with their parents and they're not socialized. But it depends on the child. And I think the teacher should embrace wherever that child is and take them where they need to be. So that's my idea. Actually, one of my several of the students that I homeschooled with, their parents brought them into Betty Shabazz as a classroom, and yeah, we embraced and taught them how to socialize if they couldn't, and they were too social. We would monitor that too. So
Too social.
I don't think that's. Say that again.
So some of them are too social, like talking all the time. Like, okay, you can't just do that all day. You have to, you know, be quiet when the teacher's talking. That sort of thing. I mean, did you ever have
Yeah.
students that they didn't have the, you know, organized way of managing themselves in the classroom because they
Uh,
were
you,
in a homeschool environment?
Well, see, I have a different perspective in terms of children, period. So I don't, just because they were homeschooled, there were some children who were in regular school who had those same behaviors. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't say there's an average of all homeschoolers, may not be able to sit in the seat. So overall, over my years of teaching, every child comes in with their own levels.
Yeah.
Social, emotional, academic. There's a lot of things that have sort of molded them, and it's up to us to find that special place so that we can put them where they should be, educational wise.
So
Well, I have noticed that the classroom environment has changed greatly.
mm,
I'm an educator. I've only been teaching a few years, and the most recently, the last 2 years, I've worked as a substitute teacher in the schools, and these are not private schools. Previously, I worked in private schools, and there was totally a different environment in a private school than what you have in the public school system. I have noticed that the kids talk all the time, and it is just a matter of you telling them that they're getting too loud, they need to keep it down. But the last few years, and we have this discussion actually online about it, because someone had posted um, a punishment assignment that said, I will not talk in class. I will not talk in class. And people were making all kinds of jokes about it and saying, kids these days don't even know what that means. And I have just found that you just have to develop different types of disciplines in the classroom, because there is a lot of talking. And the only time that students are quiet is when there's testing.
mm. You know
Mhm.
what I observed, because I saw a lot of that too, and I think the environment that a lot of people have at home, there's always noise. You have the TV going and people are talking over the TV. So a voice in the background doesn't signal them to be quiet, because everybody's always talking over people talking because the TV's always on. And I think that's even more so
Mhm.
now than maybe when we were in school. And
Mhm.
I think that makes it kind of challenging when you don't want to always be screaming. And one thing I admire about Sharon is I've seen her manage a classroom and never raise her voice. And these were was it second grade you were teaching, third grade, second grade, third grade, didn't you?
Kindergarten, first grade, second, third. Yes, indeed.
So,
Yes,
what are some tips to you know?
mhm.
What are some classroom management tips for somebody who's teaching at home or teaching in a classroom for young children who are active
Yes,
and talkative? How do you manage their energy
yes,
so they can calm down and
yes.
listen?
Yeah. And they're supposed to be talkative. They're supposed to be, active. That's a part of their development. And we are social beings. We really are. So when you design the classroom, again, according to the way that children are, you break those children up into groups if they love to talk. So you give them a particular topic to talk about or discuss whatever is in your curriculum, and you team them up with a partner and you monitor what that looks like, or you have more group work for them to do, because they are social beings, and that's a part of and that's okay, to be able to collaborate and to talk and to work that way. There could be some critical thinking. I'm a professor. I teach child development classes, and the students come in, they're just amazed the fact that they're not going to sit up and listen to me lecture. No way. We're going to find a partner. We're going to count you off by threes. Group one, group two, group three. This is your discussion. Talk about it. Bring it back to me. These young children can do that too. They
Mm,
really can. They really can, and you'd be amazed if you challenge them with that independence and guide them through it. They don't know at the beginning, but you just continue to guide them, and before you know it, you stepping back and they're taking over. They're the leaders of the classroom. So the social, especially with the pandemic, they're coming back. They were not socialized. I can imagine now how much they want to talk. They're
Yeah.
with their children, they're with their peers now. As my friend, I could hear. So I can imagine how that looks right now, especially. So you design that so that okay, this is the topic. Discuss with such and such or your friend or whoever, and you have 5 minutes to do that. Come on back and report out. And again, you just monitor the groups, and before you know it, it's amazing. And you can even group them according to one that's a little shy, one that's not shy. You can organize it in a way that's beneficial. That's beneficial. So yeah, that talking is great. Managing the classroom. I have five favorite components that I use for my classroom management. And I guess the one that I really like the best is called refocus. Sometimes
Mhm.
children they come to school not knowing how to behave. So
Redirect.
that to me is a totally different curriculum. Before you even start teaching academically, we need to show them how what's expected of them in the classroom. Not a 1 day, 2 day list of rules. This is the rule. This is the rule because they don't know how to follow those yet until you teach that to them. So I guess the refocus form is great is because the students may do something that's a little out of control, right? And you say, okay, and you train them how to use this form. And on the form, there's questions they would have to answer. What did I do? Why did I do it? What can I do next time? Am I ready to come back to learn? So to me, what happens in the class and say, you do this because I told you to do this, that's what you got to do. But when you do something that's not appropriate, you analyzing your behavior yourself, and you're coming back and maybe have a conversation with the teacher saying, "Man, I didn't eat breakfast this morning. My mama, my brother got shot, or whatever it may be." There are some things that's happening with our children that we don't know about. But yet we expect for them to sit in the classroom and be quiet. And sometimes it's not a part of where they are.
Mm.
So I would, what I used to do, even with the kindergartners, if they're out of order, they just stand over by my desk. And when the PA's taking them to lunch, I'm like, what's going on? You okay? And it just may be a bad day. We do have that sometimes. So yeah, in terms of managing, it's very important to show how much you care about the children, not how much I know this and that, and you can do this math and this problem solving. How much do you care? You hungry? Come on, here, I got some snacks over here for you. So I think building that classroom environment definitely makes a difference in learning. And again, breaking it up so that they are learning at their level. There's always challenges when you're trying to take a third grader doing third grade work, and they're really on the first grade level.
Mm.
So differentiating that piece, because that can cause behaviors. I can imagine me being in a physics class and I don't know anything about physics, and you expect me to do what? So we sort of think about that whole structure of the classroom, how that looks in terms of the teacher perspective, and how we can guide these students so that they can become successful. So yeah,
Now,
definitely those are a few strategies. Just
mhm.
love them. Just keep loving them, no matter how they come to you. Keep loving on them, even if they may, turn the table over. Say, "Oh, those gym shoes are so cool that you're wearing. What? You had a game this weekend? What did you do? What position did you play?" So it's creating that caring atmosphere where the children break down doors to get to your classroom.
Wow.
So that yeah, there's a lot of different strategies, but show them that you care about them. Number one,
Now, one of the things
because
that
they do not get that at home.
I have a question. I
I
have a
have two questions.
I
Well, let me
okay.
ask mine real quickly, because one of the things that I have noticed in the classroom is a lot of teachers have a couple of huge jars of candy. And I know that this is like for rewards, but what part, or how would I ask this?
Sure, our children eat too much sugar and they're hyped up, and it shows in their
Well,
behavior.
but these are like candies that the teacher has for the kids, when they get an answer right or they respond right, or maybe they're being quiet when they're supposed to.
Mhm.
How much of that reward system of giving them something immediately, and I know this depends on the age, but I have taught all the way through high school, and as far as the elementary school grades are, I've seen them have candy and treats for the kids all the way through 8th grade. So
Ooh.
place is it, and how much should we be having those kind of rewards for good behavior, right answers?
You need a bride.
Mhm. Yeah.
Think about
Yeah. Every school is different. Every educator is different. Everybody do their own little strategies. And as I tell all teachers that I'm teaching, to be educators, that you're going to have to pull out a whole lot of tricks out of your bag because one may work today, one may not work tomorrow. The reward system, I believe in a positive atmosphere. I believe in allowing the children to feel good just about their own individual accomplishments. A high five, a dap, or what you did that is awesome. Maybe enough rewards for children. What it all. I used to give the treats. I did that for a little while. Then I did something else, and you have to do whatever it is that works. I used to have drills that I would give the children, math drills, as soon as they came in. And when they got 100% or whatever it was, they find a little fruit roll up on their desk, a way to motivate them. But it wasn't a constant giving of that. We would have Fun Friday. Those who proven or reach different goals, like, oh yeah, you get to chill out Friday because you work so hard Monday through Thursday. And then it's sort of, and if it works to the point where those others are motivated now because they see the positive things that's going on, I would keep doing that. But if it gets to the point where it's frustrating those others who are not able to reach those goals, I would say, oh no, that's not going to work. So you have to monitor, to me, what is good for your class, what works for your class. But again, showing that well, we used to hug all the time at Betty Shabazz. Getting a hug was
and
just
that was
like
enough,
great.
Yeah.
Well, I had a
Yeah,
prize
that
box.
was
I
enough.
spent a
Exactly.
lot of money at the at the dollar store and the thrift stores finding prizes for my kids up to about fourth
Mhm.
grade.
Yeah. And you know what? I
Okay.
I, I had a
Okay.
I had an experience that taught me that once you start giving things, well, like Sharon is saying, it can create frustration for those who never get the reward. And so then it got to be where I was rewarding everybody for every little thing, so everybody would have something. And then you find yourself you are spending a lot of money. So that was my lesson. Just don't
Teachers
start.
are anyway.
Don't start, because then it
Yeah.
escalates.
Yeah.
That's what I learned. Sure, you had a question.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. I wanted to ask Sharon about, I have a curriculum question actually. There's a couple of them. One is that I've been hearing and reading a lot about how teachers and public education systems had gotten away from phonics as far as teaching, and how bad that has been for our kids learning how to read. They had this, very strange way of, you know, I don't know, reading by osmosis or something. And the
Don't
other thing,
sound
it was
outward.
really, really stupid. And so these kids, you were finding that these kids actually couldn't read, and because they didn't understand the way the words work, the way sounds work. So that's one question. And the other is about the schools getting away from teaching cursive. And
Oh, yeah.
that has been
Yeah,
so
that's
distressing for me, because I keep saying, they keep saying everything is on computers, but I
computer.
say, how do you have a legal signature if you can't write your name?
Right. Wow. Yeah, that has,
Everything, it's a legal signature.
yes.
So Sharon, what do you think about, one, about the phonics, and two, about the lack of cursive?
Yeah, we got about 4 minutes left, but yeah, go right ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cursive. Well, it is a technology age. They take their assessments online. Everything is online. So in terms of cursive, even the signatures, you don't even need to sign your name. So to me, I think it's a new trend that we have to get used to, not the old trend, because who's writing with paper and pencil? They don't even have that anymore. So sometimes it's hard to let go, just like we used to cell phone. No, we don't want that. So we got to me, I think it's just a matter of catching up with what's happening right now. How often do they write? We can work with fine motor skills in different ways,
Right.
because writing definitely is a fine motor skill. So we can work with fine. That's a fine. Typing on the computer is a fine motor skill. These young children, they playing with Play-Doh and things of that sort is a fine motor skill. So that's the really reason why, because you want to develop those fine motor skills. You can do art, you can draw, and create things to do that. So I personally think that really paper pencil is sort of becoming obsolete a little bit now.
Wow.
And it's okay for the children to do the new trend. This is just my view, because kindergartners are on technology.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I would say yeah, it's okay. I used to worry
Until they
about
have
that
to.
too, but now
But if
Yeah,
you're gonna
seeing the
homeschool,
trends now,
yeah,
but
that's true. That you can do an
it's
electronic
okay.
signature, but when you go to sign things to like
Oh,
buy your
phonics.
house,
No,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, you gotta sign bank
you have
documents, and
to
if you don't
sign
know how
bank.
to write letters,
Exactly. And that's, well, the problem isn't even just that they don't learn how to write cursive, is that they also can't read it
yeah, like
because
the
they
it's
have
it's
never
it's,
had.
education
it's
process.
amazing that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
bringing up phonics, and that's what this reading program is all about.
Hmm.
Phonetics. We're teaching the teachers who's teaching third through sixth graders how to say the A sound, the B sound, the C sound, things of that sort. So I believe reading is, and that's what I train in, and that's what I teach. You have to know how to phonetically. You don't necessarily have to write it. You need to see it and recognize that's a letter A, that's a
Hmm.
letter B, and C and D.
Hmm.
And you need to know the sounds of those. You know how to blend those. As we on Wednesdays, our final training on the phonetic piece, and the teachers have to pass a test to teach the class, because if you don't know it, you cannot teach it.
Right.
So teaching them how to blend, match, all of that is key. And I think that's what those third through eighth graders, high schoolers missed out on, which are gaps that need to be filled. But that's my passion right now, is to get in those schools and teach the phonetics and the classroom management. That's key. You can't do math until you learn how to read.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah,
Well,
I'm right there with you with the phonetics.
definitely.
Right
Well,
there
we've
with
got
you.
to, yes, definitely. But we've got to wrap up. And Viata Robinson says, greetings, sisters. Yes, thank you, Viata. Viata will be on later this evening, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, on the Female Solution Global Radio TV show, and Soul Purpose Healing. And she'll be talking about the whole issue of our current economy, and is it enslaving us? Because we get enslaved to debt when we get out of college and can't stop working because we got to keep paying our debts. So she'll talk about that tonight. So tune on in to the Female Solution and Soul Purpose Healing with Viata. And in the minute we have left, Sharon, if you can give us some insight on how people can get in touch with you if they want to benefit from your skills, maybe have you consult with them on how they can set up their home classroom if they do want to homeschool. How can they reach you?
That's true. Sure, definitely. You can give me a call if you like, 708-250-0572. You can go to my website, www.sharontrains.com. And that's where you can actually request a quote. You can contact me via email. So www.sharontrains.com, or 708-250-0572. So yeah, my website is open. Feel free to contact me, and then connect to my email on that website as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. You have been a wealth of information,
Okay.
and if you're
You're
encouraged,
welcome.
definitely, I think for those who might have hesitated, they might even consider homeschooling. But if not, at least understand what teachers are going through in the classroom with your child and give them some respect. So we thank you all for joining us tonight, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Three Black Moms. Until next time, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara, and we have Sharon Trains, who is a homeschooler and educator for Black moms.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl. And I'm Naima. We're Three Black Moms.